creating a platform to rebuild New South Wales. That's how the Treasurer is selling it anyway. But the budget he unveiled today also takes the state into deficit, and at least 5,000 public sector jobs will go to cut costs. On the upside, there will be record spending on infrastructure, and the government has promised more teachers, nurses and police. Bridget Glanville is at State Parliament for us tonight. Bridget.
Juanita, we were told to expect a horror budget, but on the surface it isn't as bad as many people expected. In fact, some critics have said that the budget could have been even tougher.
This was billed as the infrastructure budget, with the government convinced that's what voters want.
We're trying to improve the services that the state is desperate to see. We're trying to build the infrastructure they've been waiting for. At the same time, we're trying to look after those most vulnerable in our society.
Transport will receive $6.3 billion, a jump of 9% on last year. $3 billion of that will go on roads. Health is in line for $17 billion. Much of that will go to fix hospitals. There'll be more than 900 extra nurses and 662 extra hospital beds. In total, there'll be 4,000 extra teachers, police and nurses. This spending will send the budget into deficit by $718 million. That's despite savings of $8 billion. 5,000 public sector jobs will be cut, but unions believe that's just the start.
It's a big question mark what natural attrition actually means, and I think 5,000 is just the start, and we can see somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 jobs going in the New South Wales public sector over the coming years.
The government hopes to raise up to $3.5 billion from leasing out Port Botany and the Sydney desalination plant to the private sector. The opposition says this will lead to more job cuts, but industry has welcomed the move.
Well, we'd say that the investment in infrastructure, the lift in investment in infrastructure is a good thing. That's certainly something we've been asking for a long time.
The government's also closing Kirkconnell, Berrima and Parramatta jails and will consider privatising others. First-time buyers will be disappointed with the budget. Unless they're buying a newly built house or unit, from January next year, they're going to have to pay stamp duty. At the moment, any home under $500,000 is exempt.
Obviously, going forward, we're not offering all of the same concessions that we were previously, and that's part of the fiscal challenge that we're dealing with. So it's not an easy decision.
Mining royalties are set to increase. The Treasurer says this is needed to offset the cost of the federal government's carbon tax for the state's power generators. Households will also have to pay for a blowout in Labor's solar bonus scheme, with electricity bills expected to increase by $12 a year. The government is forecasting the budget will return to surplus next year, but not by much. And with global economic uncertainty, the government says it may have to revise the figures in the next budget.
Barry O'Farrell has always said that transport would be one of his main priorities. Today's budget promised record spending on infrastructure over the next 4 years. Transport reporter Carly Simmons has the details.
Big promises need big dollars. This year alone it will cost $13 billion to fix the state's transport woes. That includes more money for public transport and roads.
That's $1.4 billion more than last year, a 12% increase, Madam Speaker. A great result for public transport.
About $300 million has been allocated to start building the North West Rail Link, including $200 million for land acquisition.
Less than $100 million in this budget's actually going towards the construction of the North West Rail Link. Less than $100 million isn't going to do anything in delivering the North West Rail Link.
Another $300 million will continue work on Sydney's South West line. $100 million has been allocated to expanding Sydney's light rail network, but the government's put off plans to build an adjacent cycle path known as the Greenway because of the price tag. Roads has a record $5.5 billion budget, but most of it will be spent in regional and rural areas. That includes $1 billion on the Pacific Highway upgrade, $120 million on the Great Western Highway, and $80 million for the Princes Highway. There's also a plan to ease congestion.
There is $200 million in that budget we understand allocated for decongestion, which the NRMA has been canvassing for very effectively in the last couple of years, and that the test will be in how quickly it is implemented.
This budget is all about how the government will fund its transport promises. It's already outsourcing the running of Sydney ferries to save money. Its next target will be road maintenance. Maintenance in Sydney's north is currently outsourced, but that could be expanded to other parts of Sydney.
It's something we're trialling. We've variously been told that other studies indicate somewhere between 5 and 20% savings.
There's money for new buses and new bus depots, while $3 million will be spent exploring a bus rapid transit system for Sydney's northern beaches, while $7.5 million will be spent over 4 years upgrading Sydney's ferry wharves. There are some other winners. $110 million has been allocated to roll out electronic ticketing on Sydney ferries next year, and $51 million will see work begin on a pedestrian link between Wynyard Station and Barangaroo. But is the government spending spree hitting the right target?
I think it is. I think we've seen a lot of capital spent on roads, and we've got a hell of a lot of traffic congestion. What we haven't seen is a whole lot of new rail links, and it is rail links that will draw people off the road network and fix traffic congestion if we're really serious about it.
There'll be serious scrutiny from commuters. For them, the investment's long overdue. Kylie Simmons, ABC News, Sydney.
Bridget, has the government done enough to fix transport?
Juanita, it's a start. The government has met all of its election promises, but it hasn't revealed the total cost yet of its biggest project, the North West Rail Link, and there's no guarantee yet of any federal funding for that.
Well, with the budget taking us into deficit, what about the state's AAA credit rating?
Well, the government's confident it can keep its AAA credit rating, and in fact, late this afternoon, Standard & Poor's, the ratings agency, released a statement saying that at the moment it's safe, but it also said for the government to increase revenue and decrease expenditure, that its plan, it will be challenging.
So all things considered, could the budget have done more?
Well, it could have revealed the cuts to government programs. Now, for the government to keep its AAA credit rating, not increase taxes and yet increase revenue, it's going to have to cut spending. So many people are predicting there will be more job cuts to come.
Bridget Glanville at State Parliament.